8.7 here, we're looking at proportions and similar figures. This is a super important lesson, especially when you get to geometry next year. So the first type of examples we'll go over are examples with shapes. So this is probably the most applicable usage for proportions. So from the previous drawing, what is the length of AC? So if we were to look at our drawing, we are trying to calculate AC, which would be this x value here, because this missing point is 8. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a proportion between our two triangles here to calculate for our missing value. So what we want to do is we want to look at our angles to figure out what are our equivalent sides. So as you can see, we have a right angle here by our point B and our point E. So that tells us that AC and DF are our similar sides. We can also conclude that EF and BC are similar sides, as well as AB and DE. It's important that you figure out what are your similar sides, because that way you can set up your proportion correctly. So what I would recommend doing is set up your fractions based on the rectangles and similar sides. So we're trying to find x, so we need x within our fraction. So I'm going to start with x. Then we'll want to select a side that we know the value in both of our triangles. That side will be our light blue side. So my first fraction is going to be x over 16. The green and the blue side within my bigger triangle. So now I'm going to make that equal to my smaller triangle within the same proportions. So I have x on top, which is my orange side. So I'm going to need 18 on top because that's my orange side of my smaller triangle. Then, since I use 16, which is my blue side, I'm going to have to use 12 because that's my blue side of the smaller triangle. Okay? Once you've set up your proportion, then you are going to use the cross product to solve for your missing value. So, the cross product, we are going to multiply diagonally within our two fractions. So the first thing here, I've got x times 12, which is just 12x, and then 16 times 18, which is 288. Now to solve the equation. To find x, we are going to divide our coefficient from both sides, which will give me x equals 24. And in this one, we do not have any units attached, so that can be our final answer. The second example is of a man in a flagpole. I want you guys to try this one on your own and give it a go, and we'll take a look at it together in class. We'll also talk about scale drawings in class as well. So now we have an example that is not visual. So for this example, we have a map that has a scale is this rate. 1 inch is 110 miles. The distance from Socksville to Gainesville on the map is 0.6 inches. What is the actual distance from Socksville to Gainesville? So whenever they give you a unit conversion like this, 1 inch is equivalent to 110 miles, make that the first of your two fractions. So I've got 1 inch over 110 miles. The units aren't super important at this step, but I'm going to do it so that we can set up our proportion correctly. So if that's my first fraction, in my other fraction, since I have inches in my numerator, I'm going to have to write inches in my numerator for the second fraction as well. So they give us inches, which we know is 0.6, and we're trying to calculate the number of miles. So we can just make that a variable, x miles. So now, just like the previous example, we're going to solve this by taking the cross product. But when we take the cross product of this, don't worry about the units too much. We'll bring back the units in our final answer. So I've got 1 times x, which is just x. And then I've got 110 times 0.6, which gives me 66. Now with my final answer, I am going to want to add our units. So in this example, we were trying to calculate x number of miles. So with my 66, my unit is going to be miles. So that's more of a word problem example for a question like this. Okay, on the back side here, we just have one more word problem. We're going to save this one for class as well. Give it a try on your own. It is very similar to the problem that we just went over. All right, thanks for watching. Please bring any questions that you have to class.